Good evening, St. Lucia, and welcome to yet another episode of What's Happening Now with Laura. So much to talk about, so many things that we could celebrate, so many things that we could take joy in. But all of that is yet overshadowed by our 50th homicide. I say 50 because I think it's recorded as 49, but there's one up in the air which could push it over the edge to 50. Either way, 50 or 49, that's quite a bit. For 286 square miles, 170,000 people. 50 murders in 11 months. This is just shy of 5 murders a month, which means, therefore, we're pushing to get to 55 by the end of the year. Now, while it may not be 55, may not be the highest number of murders that we've recorded in St. Lucia in one given year, it is without a doubt a high number. Let me share some statistics with you. And bear in mind, I'm not a statistician, but it doesn't take that much to figure out what the numbers say to us, what picture they paint for us. At 170,000 people in St. Lucia, we are, without a doubt, able to fit into a metropolitan city, say, such as Ottawa, Canada, almost 8 times. The entire population of St. Lucia can fit into the metropolitan city of Ottawa, Canada, about 8 times. 8 times. Would it therefore be a stretch of the imagination to tell you that at 50 murders for the year, St. Lucia records a whopping 29 murders for every 100,000 people. 29 per 100,000 people. And yet, Ottawa, Canada, which the entire population of St. Lucia can fit into 8 times, records only 0.8 murders per 100,000. Yes, you heard me right. I didn't mean 8. I didn't mean to say 80. I meant to say exactly what you heard me say. 0.8 murders per 1,000 people, which is to say that for every 100,000 people in Ottawa, Canada, that city does not even record a full murder, 1 murder per month. Doesn't. It does not. For the entire year of 2017 thus far, Ottawa, Canada, because I keep saying Ottawa, Canada because there are other Ottawas. There's an Ottawa, Kansas. So let's not get it twisted. Let's not get it confused. And this is why I'm saying Ottawa, Canada. 11 murders have been recorded in the entire metropolitan area of Ottawa, Canada. 11. And you may be wondering of what significance is that, because although I've told you that the entire population of St. Lucia can fit into Canada, in Ottawa, Canada, 8 times, about 8 times, Unless you're a whiz at math, you can't really compute what the figure is for the population of Ottawa, Canada. So let me help you out a bit there. It's a little over 1,300,000 people. 1.3 million people live in the metropolitan area of Ottawa, Canada. To be exact, 1,323,783 people. So roughly, St. Lucia can fit into Canada, into Ottawa, about 8 times. And out of that 1.3 million people, only 11 murders have been recorded. Only 11. Some of you may say, well, they've got endless resources at their disposal to combat crime, that they can stop crime, that they can fix it. Some of you, another sect of you, a subsection of our society may say they're more civilized people. Just look at the streets, their suburbs, their city even. Inner city, it's a clean streets. People sit along the streets, not just vagrants. You know, in the summertime, it's not hard pressed to find Canadians just sitting around in the park, on the concrete, on the sidewalks, having lunch. It's not uncommon. They can afford to do that because the streets are clean. It's not fetid. You know what I'm saying? It's not fetid. There's no reeking of urine anywhere. What makes them so civilized and us in St. Lucia so barbaric? Wouldn't surprise you to know that there are hundreds of us St. Lucians living in Canada. And when we migrate to Canada, we can observe the rules and we can be civilized. We can know not to pee at every street corner, and we know not to abuse our children, all in the name of discipline. And we observe the rules, both in our homes and in the streets, in our churches, in the schools. We can observe the rules of Canada. But let's just say that we're in St. Lucia, we revert almost immediately. Almost immediately. And that's not to say everyone, but we're generalizing here for our purposes. We revert right back to our barbaric ways. Hang them by the balls. You know, the expletives that come out of our mouths when describing the things that we will do if somebody were to hurt us or to harm us, or the impatience that we exhibit if we have to wait in line at the bank, at the hospitals. But we don't complain when we're in those countries. 11 murders. Juxtapose that against St. Lucia with 50 murders, a whopping 29 per 100,000. Crying shame. Crying shame. Crime and violence thrive when illicit actors are able to tap into a steady stream of reserves, whether it be through drug trafficking, illicit smuggling, or any other source. Crime and violence thrive when illicit actors are able to tap into our society, into a steady stream of reserves. And I know some of you at home are listening and thinking, yeah, man, steady stream of reserves. But yet they keep pounding on the little man with a spliff here and a joint here. A 5 bag over here for snatching a watch, a chain. Don't be quick to understand and to agree with me. Because, as we all know the saying, si pani situes, pani vole. If it weren't for us being too accommodating to the little things, and last week I spoke about the little things making the big things bearable. The little things making the big things bearable. At the time, I was thinking about pleasure. I was talking about making life comfortable. But the same applies here. The little things make the big things tolerable. If we are able, if we condone by our tacit silence and our willful blindness, our ability to turn and to cast a blind eye when our own, our children, our husbands, our wives, our families commit petty crime, we would not be able to incubate an environment where crime on a higher level is sustainable. Because if we are intolerant of the little things, when the big things occur, it will not be a shadow in our mind what needs to be done to stamp it out and to ensure that big crime and big business is stamped out of our country. But you see, we are so tolerant of petty crime that when big crime occur, we use it in our petty minds, in our pea brains, to justify our petty crimes and our petty ways. Si mi se so and so big shot sa fey, ki manye yo vle twene ishmwe, l'audience, la jol, pou yon ti sip bagay. You see? It's our ability to justify the little things which enable the big things to breed and to fester uncontrollably. Now, I don't know what was the cause or the reason for the young 24-year-old who was dumped like so much garbage at the Deglo landfill. I don't know. But it stands to reason that it was not because he was a good choir boy. I can almost guarantee that. I can almost guarantee you that it is not because he was a good church boy, an acolyte of the highest order and esteem. When was the last time you heard a choir member being shot down, killed, maimed? May have started as a choir boy, but never ended as a choir boy at the time of the violence visiting him or her, as the case may be. You see, it's because we depart from the ways we think we know it all. We want everything instantaneously. We want everything now. Give it to me now. I want it now. How come she has it now and I don't have it now? It's all about now. It's all about me. It's all about me. We are so me-centric in this country. It is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. So much so that when someone shows just a little bit of humanity to a fellow man, we are oftentimes moved to tears. Oh, the humanity. Oh my gosh, how she cared and how he cared. Did you see how he spoke about his mother? How he cares for his mother. By the way, quick shout out to 150 Degrees of DJ out there. I'm sure you're listening. And we're so compassionate. We're so full of empathy and sympathy at just the mere flitting glance of compassion. Compassion which ought to be commonplace, which ought to be the common thing, which ought to be the norm. We're so taken by it. Is it that we have become so jaded, that what should be the norm seems to be like some sort of delicacy? So much so that our palates don't know how to handle it. We're not sure if to take it all in, fetty, bouche pie, what to do with it. We don't know. We don't know how to behave. We're moved to tears at just the merest show of compassion and caring. Because we've become so tolerant, so jaded, so hardened by crime. 50 murders in 1 year, 170,000 people, 29 murders per 100,000 people. People, if you are not appalled, if you are not dismayed, something is definitely wrong with you. Something is absolutely wrong with you. Absolutely. We should be up in arms, and I don't mean FEMA, I mean up in arms, asking for some answers, getting things done. Instead, we sit and we politicize everything. Let me make you understand something. If a city like Canada, like Ottawa, Canada, can have 1.3 million people and they can handle all these 1.3 million, there is a formula somewhere that we can write down, copy it, because we're so good at copying everything. We're so good at recording everything. We need to do something. It cannot continue this way. We cannot continue this way, not for a moment. The question, now we have so many answers. There's so many of us. We've got so many answers. We're armchair economists. We're armchair crime fighters. We're armchair lawyers. We're armchair everything in this country. So I'm posing the question to us, to you out there. What do you think? How do you think we can combat crime? How do you think we can combat crime? Do you think that if we had our CCTV cameras up and running, by the way, are those running? From the last administration, we've been given the runaround as to why the CCTV cameras were not in operation and a deadline by which they should be in operation. The last time I heard was from the previous administration. I think it was supposed to have been March of 2016, or was it 2015? It's a little fuzzy in my head now, that those cameras were supposed to be up and running. I have heard nary a word, not a word, not a word, not a word from anybody as to the status of those CCTV cameras. Are they operational? Are they up and running? And if they are, do you think that if we increase the number of CCTV cameras that we have, or even got them operational, that we would be able to reduce crime? Or do you think that the attitude of the citizens of St. Lucia has a lot, the attitude towards crime has a lot to do with whether crime festers or whether it is stamped out? In particular, violent crimes. So I was talking to a few people over the week, and I was asking them what did they think about the rising crime situation. At the time it was 48, and within that time then and now, it's 50. And I was asking them what they thought about the murder rate and what they thought could be done to combat crime. And somebody said to me, there are so many issues. Where do we begin? Where do we begin? Do we start with the obvious crime, the little man with a spliff, with a joint, who snatches a purse here and there, a chain, harasses the visitors? Or do we set up traps for those persons who are funding the drug? Because don't forget, I said earlier in my preamble that crime and violence thrive when illicit actors are able to tap into steady revenue streams. Steady revenue streams. That means it's not just $5 here and $10 here, not even $50 here or $500 here, not even $5,000 or $15,000 here and there. It takes a lot more than that to sustain an illicit drug trade. And a lot of the times, a lot of these murders, a lot of these young men are losing their lives over drugs. Drugs. Gang warfare. So again, do we need to change our attitude towards crime? Or do we continue to put panacea upon panacea on salvo and upon salvo on the bruises and the cuts and the gashes that mar the landscape of St. Lucia? Do we think that by reopening fully the forensics lab, that we stand a chance? What are some of the ways that we can combat crime? I'll list a few. About 10, maybe less. We have heard that in St. Lucia, people do not come out to give evidence, despite the promise of anonymity. But we all know that that is a joke. We all know that that is a joke. How many times have people turned state witness evidence, and by the time the end of the week, by the time the week is out, everybody knows what has happened. And then it's not so difficult to trace back to find out who said what, who squealed like a pig, who sang like a canary. We have to get serious about anonymity in this country. We have to get serious about the persons who are brave enough to give evidence. We've got to be serious about this. We've got to get going this witness protection program. I keep hearing about it. I keep hearing how expensive it is to maintain. We're a small country. It's not that difficult to find people. Everybody knows everybody. It's only 170,000 people. But my question to you is, can we afford not to invest in the witness protection program? Can we afford not to invest in it? Can we collectively as a region, because we all know our borders are porous. We know it. Particularly in St. Lucia. Particularly in St. Lucia. The number of times that we've heard of drugs being trafficked in and out of this country, it's no stretch of the imagination to think that they're going to other Caribbean islands, our sister neighbors. They're not just going to America. They're not just going to the UK. They're also going to Martinique and St. Vincent and Antigua and the rest. And so, if we, as Caribbean people, as Caribbean governments, cannot come together and put, as meager as they may be, our resources together to protect our borders, to get serious on crime, we're fighting a losing battle. We're fighting a losing battle. It's like bathing in mud. It's like bathing in mud. It's like carrying water in a basket. We can't say that we're serious about crime. We can't ask people to come in and give evidence, and their very security, their very identity is at every turn, every risk of being exposed. We have to do something about giving anonymous evidence. What we have, the excuse that we have, we can't be serious. That's laughable. So we got to get serious about giving evidence anonymously. We have to ensure that offenders are not protected. We have to ensure that offenders are not protected. Make them visible. I am not advocating that at every turn, once somebody has been accused of something, that their faces and their personas and their home lives and everything about them needs to be plastered everywhere. But we all know that justice delayed is justice denied. An accusation has been made, a charge has been proffered. Get that case to court to either one, dispense justice to the victim, or two, exonerate the accused. One way or another, somebody is affected. Somebody gets the short end of the stick. Somebody takes it in the neck. If a false accusation has been made, and we drag our little tails along the road like Bram Bram, and we do not execute justice swift, we are just as culpable as the person making the accusation if it is false. The accused has to have their day in court. They need to get justice dispensed for them as well. They need to be exonerated if indeed and in fact they are blameless. But if they're not, they need to feel the swift arm of the law. They need to understand that crime does not pay, and that if you do the crime, you must do the time. So, once these people, the accused, has been found guilty, let's not pretend it didn't happen. Let's not give them a slap on the wrist and say, okay, 5 years, and you just do that quietly and send them in and, you know, all kind of cocoa macaquerie going on. No. We want to know who they are. And that is an appeal to all of the stakeholders as well. The media, it's not enough to record, to say, oh, this person has been accused of fraud. And then when the matter goes to court, nobody's there in the courthouse recording for posterity. Nobody is there recording and coming back and reporting, okay, this is what happened, this is how it went down. The excuses we have for reporters in this country, we need to beef it up. We need to beef it up. We need to go out there and investigate and not just ask silly questions and just ask superficial questions. No. Go in there and delve and find the underbelly of the story and report it to the people. By reporting it to the people, the underscourge, the underbelly of it all, we will have an understanding and perhaps an appreciation for what goes on, and maybe grow some spine and some gonads and stand up for ourselves. So when our leaders now will come and try to piss in our eyes and call it rain, we will say, sorry sir, not all going so. Not in my eyes are you going to piss. I am sorry. Not here. Paisia, Lot Koti, Chape de Pio, we're not standing for it. Let us make offenders visible in this country. And I'm not just talking about the blue collar offenders, I'm talking about at the highest level. So when you see our leaders come out and they say they've commissioned an inquiry and the results are out, and then they catch them about, they hold it under their arms or between the legs and refuse to, guess what? Our money paid for that, you know. Our money paid for it. So we have to demand, not just by the way, we have to demand the results. We've got to delve into it and we've got to demand justice where justice is due. It's not good and well for people to come out and make accusations and accuse people in a roundabout manner without naming names. We want names, we want times, we want places, and we want them held accountable and responsible. And we want the whole world to know who they are. So you know what? Even the generation that isn't born as yet will know who they are and ensure that they never rear their ugly heads ever again. Not in our society. It's time we make a stand. We need what is called crime maps. We need to know where the hotspots are. We need to shame our communities into giving up the undesirables in our community. And some people may say, but we know where the hotspots are. Do you really? You really know where the hotspots are? You think you know. You think you know. But do you really know? Just because a crime happens in one area does not mean that this is where the perpetrators of the crime is coming from. And we have to ask ourselves, why is it that certain areas are so hot for crime? Why is it that some areas are so hot for crime? And again, I go back to the old adage, si pan situé, pan volé. If we're living in a community and we say we are serious about taking back our communities, and if we say we're serious about combating crime in our communities, and if we say we're serious about raising our children and our families in safe communities, we can't just keep moving. We can just keep moving, you know, abandoning one community and moving to another. Because guess what? The undesirables follow us wherever we go. Because it's not the community they want, you know. It's the people. It's the people. So understanding why certain areas are hot for crime will help us understand what needs to be done about crime. Is it that our children just don't have anything to do? There's no entertainment. There's no work, much less entertainment, because to have entertainment and to sustain entertainment, you've got to have moolah, d'argent, money. You got to have money. You can't go out to a club and have a good time and buy some drinks and, you know, rock it with your girl or your guy with no money in your pocket. You got to have some money. So we need to get our young people to work. Do we know where the preponderance of unemployed people reside? And if we do, why aren't we doing something about it? You know, we have a propensity in this country to do a lot of research. Yeah, we like to do research. We like to have numbers. But those numbers are never put out in a timely manner, one. And two, we do nothing about the numbers. So we know that the numbers are there and we like to flash numbers and talk about numbers. But what do the numbers really mean? We never explain it to the masses. We never tell them what the numbers really mean. Because a lot of us, let's face it, a lot of us are illiterate. We can barely speak English properly, much less to understand and to analyze what numbers really mean. So we do the research, we collate the research, but we do not analyze the research. And even when we do analyze the research, we do not act on it. We do nothing about it. So let's get serious about crime mapping, and not just mapping the hotspots, but formulating plans specifically to each hotspot. Some may say, but that's going to be costly. Why not just have a cookie cutter solution to the problem? Again, can we afford to have a cookie cutter solution to the problem? This is what we've been doing over the years, and it ain't working. It ain't working. So we need to come up with a better plan. We don't sit on our hands and say, okay, now at the 11th hour, in the 11th month, after 50 murders, that we're going to convene a caucus to decide how we're going to combat crime, how we're going to keep crime from rising. Hello? The year is over. The year is over. So when we convene a caucus, is it for the next year, to combat crime for the next year? Why couldn't we have done that earlier in the year? Why wasn't it such a serious issue for us? Or is it because now well-standing members of society are being threatened with death threats? Is that what it is? Come on. Let's wake up, come to church, open our eyes, smell the coffee. We need youth clubs. I remember growing up, it almost seemed like every street in Labrie had a club. So if you were from Flamboyant Avenue, you know, that Labatry area, there was a club for you. There was the Flamboyance. Then if you were from Bay Street, there was a club for you. There was a club at Bay Street. There was the Cavaliers. There was this, South Stars. All these different kinds of clubs to entertain and to keep the youth busy, to channel their energies into sports and arts and culture. There were dance clubs and football clubs and cricket clubs and Labrie used to be a mecca when it came to youth and sports. Now, Labrie may not be the worst community out, may not be the worst village out. It certainly isn't the worst community out. Certainly isn't the worst village out. However, there has been a consistent decline in youth and sports clubs, much less for other communities and other villages who don't have that rich history. We need to bring back our youth and sports clubs. Give them, the youth, something to do, even while they're not working, even while they're trying to get a job, they're trying to get employed. Because within those youth and sports clubs, there is an immense opportunity for networking, for building our skills. There's so much we can do. Let's bring it back. And by the way, I want to say congratulations to June Frederick and her theatrical team that came down to Labrie and put on the Roderick Walcott play. I mean, I missed it. I completely missed it. But then again, I had another engagement at the exact same time. Perhaps had I remembered, I would have postponed or put it up earlier or do something different to take it in. But I know that my sister went with her daughter, and I know they had a good time. And those persons who were able to be a part of it really enjoyed it. And I understand that people have been asking for another showing. I hope they do put another one on. And then I can have June to come on the show and to really talk about it and to let us know what exactly the impact and the import of theatrical presentations like that is to us. So yes, we need those kinds of clubs. We need those kinds of organizations because it is a breeding ground for leadership. It's a breeding ground for us to hone our skills and develop new skills. Let us bring back our youth clubs. Once someone has offended in St. Lucia, I don't know that there is anything to help them get back on their feet and to stay on the straight and narrow even after rehabilitation at our penal system. I don't know that there is. I know that a lot of the times these people, these offenders, these previous offenders, they come out and they're homeless. They don't have homes. There are no halfway houses that they can go to and to rest their heads while they pick themselves up. And that when they go out there, that they're actually going to be paid what is called the living wage in civilized society. You know, a lot of the times that they're underpaid. We don't have a minimum wage in St. Lucia. And even the minimum wage that I think that's been bandied about may not even be a living wage. But yet we have these offenders coming and we claim that they are rehabilitated, but then there's nowhere for them to go. Their families have abandoned them. The society has abandoned them. They have turned their backs supposedly on the gangs and on the friends that led them astray in the first place. But it would seem that these are the only people who have their arms open to them. So what are we doing? Are we serious on rehabilitation in this country? Are we serious about when persons come out, people come out of prison, that they can have a place to rest their head and go in and say, okay, while I regroup, while I find gainful employment, at least I have a home for at least 3 months or 6 months while I get myself together and I can get a little batchy, a little someplace I can rent and pay, and live comfortably, not in the lap of luxury, but at least decently. So we need to do this. We need to work at getting offenders employed at a living wage, and we must also help them connect with stable housing. We have no halfway houses in this country. I'm not saying that we are able, we're not a rich country, we can't give everybody housing, but there should be some sort of communal home that these offenders can go to for a temporary stay. You know what I'm saying? 3 months, 6 months for the most. Parental responsibility. A lot of the times, parents excuse, mati leve ish me kosa, mataf kote ipwen sa, mataf kote ipwen sa, mati leve ish me kosa. You know, that's what we hear all the time. I didn't raise my kids that way. Hello, they learned it somewhere. They learned it somewhere. When our kids are loitering after school and they're not home, school dismisses at 2:30, 2:45, 3 o'clock for the latest. And by 5 o'clock, our kids are not home and they're not at lessons. They're not doing any extracurricular activities. They're just loitering in the city or loitering wherever. And we don't demand that they be home. We don't ensure that they're home. You're breeding little monsters. That's what it is. You're teaching them that it's okay to shuck, to snub their nose at authority. That it's okay while they're still children to partake in adult behavior. Why aren't they home doing their homework? Why aren't they home doing chores, helping out around the house? I understand, I get it. Moms have to work, but it's not just moms. Moms didn't just get pregnant or stock didn't just bring a baby, or a baby didn't just fall out of the sky. There are moms and dads. And between the two, something can be done, something must be done for our children to ensure that our children are supervised, that they're raised with discipline. And I don't mean discipline as in licks. I don't mean discipline as in punishment. In this country, we have a way of equating the two. Discipline is punishment. Punishment is discipline. No. Teach your children right from wrong. Ensure that they follow the rules, your rules. Because if they can't follow your rules, they certainly will not be able to follow the rules of society, the rules of a nation. Ensure that they follow your rules. When you tell a child to go and do something and they don't do it right away, something is wrong. Hey. Not under my roof, you don't. You get up and do what I say to do when I say to do it. Not on your terms or on your time. Because when you go out there in the real world, guess what? You're going to want to dictate to your boss, who's paying you a salary, when you should work and when you shouldn't work. And that's why we have a problem with productivity in this country. That's why we have a problem with service in this country. That's why we have a problem with employees in this country. And then employers feel that they could do what they want, and Peter pays for Paul, because there are many more Pauls than there are Peters. So wake up. Parents, it's a ripple effect. When you bring a child into this world, it is your responsibility to ensure that they are raised in such a way that when you let them out into the world, they are contributing members, positively contributing members of society. We need to have specialty courts. We we're tired of hearing that the justice system is broken, you know, and we don't have enough. You know, every time we go to court, this case is adjourned. Sometimes the petty little things, you know, petty things. We go into court for mediation. Let's mediate these things. Let's work things out. Let's work things out between us. Let's have some night court, you know, to handle the smaller, the lesser things. You know, go to night court. Let's have a drug court. So many drug cases out there. Let's have a court specifically for that. Again, I can hear people saying, cha-ching, ching, where we taking the money? Can we afford not to have them? Can we afford not to have them? You know? Then there's that every time somebody curses, that what they play court too. You know? They pass on your lawn, they pass where they're not supposed. Man, I play court too. Next thing you know, you're being served. You gotta go to court. You gotta miss work. The little $7 you're making an hour. The little $7 you're making an hour, you gotta, you know, lose out on that. Because somebody has decided they can't work with you, they can't talk to you, they can't reason with you, so they're going to take you to court. Let us make use of developments, progress, DNA evidence to combat crime. Some of you say, we don't have a forensics lab. The lab closed or it's partially open. I don't know what that means up to now. Somebody can explain it to me. You know what I'm saying? They can't explain it to me. But the possibilities are endless. Absolutely endless. If you have or you're able to use what you have. You've got a forensics lab. Man it. Get people from outside if you have to. Get forensics experts, DNA experts if you have to from outside. Create a database, a DNA bank, so that when something happens, you can match fingerprints. I see police coming all the time. There's been a burglary. They come, they dirty up your place. I know I might be sounding ungrateful, but that's what it seems to me. They dirty up the place and then they take fingerprints. Fingerprints to do what? To do what? Against what are you going to match it? Do you have an electronic database where you can put in the fingerprints and it gives you, it analyzes the fingerprints for you, the grooves and everything? Or are you still going the archaic way, magnifying glass in hand and comparing fingerprints? Is this what we're doing? Can we even do that? Do we even have an expert on hand on island who can analyze fingerprints? Analyze fingerprints. We get collecting forensics all the time. An accident happened. Somebody got shot. We are investigating till we are blue in the face. What are we doing with all the evidence that we are collecting? Can we analyze it? Can we test for DNA? Can we test for anything? Anything. Let's get serious about crime. Earlier, I asked about the CCTV cameras. And I asked whether they were operational. Let us just for a moment assume that they are operational. Are they being monitored? No, seriously, are they being monitored? When they were working, were they being monitored? And if they're not being monitored, how often are the tapes? How long are they kept? And do we tape over them? Is it an automatic spool where after 24 hours or 48 hours, they're written over? And if so, of what use will it be to us if we aren't able to solve crimes in 48 hours? If we need to go back to those tapes for evidence? It's just a thought. When are our CCTV cameras going to be up and operational? And once they are operational, will they be monitored? So these are some of my thoughts after speaking with a few people and gathering information and doing just the barest minimum of research. What do you think about those suggestions? Can you come up with some suggestions of your own? Do you like them? Do you think that they're just pies in the sky? I'd like to hear from you. We're due for a break, but when we come back, I'd like to hear from you. The number will be on the screen for 519-788, or you can send us your WhatsApp messages on 284-6536, or you can send us your email messages at laurajapia@gmail.com, and let's have an open and frank discussion on crime in this country. Please, if we're going to bring politics into it, let it be for the right reasons. Let's not tint red and yellow. Let's try to be as open and as fair as possible. See you on the other side of the break. Welcome back, and thank you for staying tuned in to what's happening now with Laura. We're talking about crime. We're talking about how we can combat crime. Is it time that we stop the rhetoric and start figuring out for ourselves how to combat crime? Maybe if we sit together, we come together as a community and we put things together, maybe we can put a paper together and give it to our government, because obviously there's a dearth of ideas. There is nobody's saying anything. We have our very first call. Thank you for calling. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
Hello.
Hello.
Can I get on to Laura's program?
You are on. You're live.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
I'm on?
Yes, you are.
Right. Laura.
Yes, dear.
You have a beautiful program.
Thank you.
But you are tackling too many things at the same time.
Talk to me.
I must tell you that if we are going to fight crime, if you are guilty of murder, you are executed. There's too much talk. We only call that WOT, waste of time. Mm-hmm. Now, you send a criminal to Bordelais. That is a four-star hotel. He didn't go to prison. He's enjoying himself. How do you fight fire? You fight fire with fire. If you have fire on the hill, you don't bring a fire brigade to out it. You put another fire on the opposite side. So when the two fires meet, they go out.
Is that right? I never heard that.
I am not telling you your program is not good. Mm-hmm. It is wonderful, but too many topics. And the only way we can curb these murders is to hang the people when you find them guilty.
Okay, when you find them guilty.
This impact report is preventing the police from catching these murderers. So that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you so much for your contribution. I respect the caller's right to have an opinion. I will defend that. I don't believe in capital punishment, so I will never subscribe to hanging and to killing people. I think it's just barbaric. We have another call online. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
Hello.
Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Yeah, is this Laura?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I feel so nice hearing you talking about these prisoners because some of them are there just for smoking a little joint. When they live there, they don't have nobody to want them by their home. And it's something that sometimes they go back in the same thing because of not knowing, nobody standing with them. So it's a good topic. Some of the people, not all of them are there for killing. Some of them are not charged for murder. Some of them are for other things. And they need something to stable them to get back to. Because some people will not want them by their home. They don't want them to work for them. They're afraid of them. So somebody has to take a stand and see what they can do for these people. I understand your point, and I'm giving you 100% of that. I find it's a good topic.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Carry on, especially about the children. You said when they're home, their mothers have to see. This is a good topic too, because we always do not know, and we know well. They bring things in the house. We ignore what they bring. We never want to ask them, where you take that? Where you take it? Oh, you have that. We'll give it to you. And they don't question. That's it.
Absolutely.
Afterwards, when they get older, they start taking other people's things. Then they say, oh, I never brought you that way. But it was that way from the starting. But we never want to question them. So what you say there is the truth. And we should work on that, and then maybe we'll get to the bottom of the situation we have in St. Lucia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And again, I mean, I understand. The first caller, just going back to the first caller, saying that there are too many things. We're talking about crime, and we're giving solutions to that crime, to the crime situation. Right? We're giving solutions to the crime situation. We've got to tackle it from different ways. Maybe I have tackled it holistically and put to the fore and not just focused on murders, although it is glaring, it is disgusting, it is scary, it is appalling. 50 murders in 1 year. And the year is not over yet, and we're trending towards 55, 170,000 people, 29 murders per 100,000 people, compared to a country, a city in one country, one city in one country with over 1.3 million people who cannot even register one. Cannot even register one murder per 100,000. Isn't that amazing? Aren't we disgusted with ourselves? Aren't we ashamed of ourselves? We ought to be. We ought to be. So I have a few WhatsApp messages I want to share with you. Remember Lisa Evans? She was my guest a few weeks ago. She's a mediator. And her contribution is, the cameras may reduce crime in the areas where the cameras are fitted for sure. However, there will be little known about what happens behind the closed doors. That is so true. The camera is not ultraviolet. It does not have X-ray vision. It just can see what happens in front of it, what is happening behind doors, what precipitated the crime that happened outdoors. We don't know. And this is why it has to be a holistic approach. It has to be coupled with anonymous evidence given by other people, eyewitnesses to crimes. What happens behind closed doors? It is a sad situation. And as a result, remember, she had this program that she's putting together, Talk is Not Cheap. She's extending a special discount to those who really want to join the workshop. Talk is Not Cheap. And that is happening this Saturday. This is happening this Saturday. And the persons who are interested but don't have the means. So she's saying the code is TIN 201750. So you know there's still an opportunity for those of you who are interested in mediation, interested in understanding what mediation means, how it can help you in your lives, in your workplace, in your communities. There's still an opportunity. Contact Lisa Evans, and she will extend that special discount to you for her workshop. Talk is Not Cheap. Another WhatsApp message here says, hidden cameras in business places and street corners would do a great job. Why? Because those people committing the crime will be caught on camera. And this person was very specific about hidden cameras because she wants them to get caught because crime is going to happen. It just depends on where and whether it can be prosecuted. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time and place, right? So she's saying hidden cameras in business places and street corners would be good, would do a good job because those persons committing the crime will be caught on camera without them being aware of the cameras, that they're being taped. If criminals are aware that a particular place has cameras, then they tend to be careful. They tend to move away and go where it is more vulnerable, where the business places are more vulnerable, where the people, the citizens are more vulnerable. There isn't any deterrent. There isn't anything that's going to give them pause. And so she's saying that, you know, widespread use of hidden cameras would be good because if you're going to commit the crime, we may as well catch you in the act and prosecute you swiftly. Yeah. So, this is some of the emails, some of the WhatsApp messages that that have been coming in. Now, I want us to focus a little bit, and I know the first caller said about too many things, but there's just so much, which is why lately I've not been having a guest because I want to wrap with you, and I want you to give us a call and to share your views with us. The number to call is 451-9788. That's 451-9788. Or you can send us your WhatsApp messages at 284-6536. And our email is laurajepi@gmail.com. Now, if a country like St. Lucia is aiming to attract foreign investors, and these people come in, and what they're hearing is that we have 29 murders per 100,000 people in St. Lucia, do you think that this would inspire them to want to come to invest in our country? Do you think so? Now, speaking of investment, I want to big up Coco Boy, Anric Walcott and his team from the Feste Laborie crew in Labrie. These guys have come up, they got a germ of an idea and didn't let it fall. And today, Feste Laborie can attract investors. And when I say investors, I understand that there are companies and hotels wanting to partner with Feste Laborie to ensure that Feste Laborie comes off great and that it is able to sustain itself. So this month, we have a call online. Okay, we have a call. We'll take this call. Our calls keep dropping, but please do not let that deter you. Please keep trying. So this month, there will be no Feste Laborie at the end of the month, which is when it usually is, the last Friday of the month. However, hello, we have a call? We have a call? Hello, you're on the air?
Hello?
Hi, good evening. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
It's a lot of things, Laura.
Sorry?
It's a lot of things.
A lot of things?
A lot of things.
Tell me.
According to your preamble, you talk very forcefully on crime. So most of the people, talking about crime. But as we stand, where government, we are living in government, but where government is concerned, do the present government have a plan on crime?
Well, I don't know. I'm asking the question just as you are asking. So pose the question.
Oh, okay. Okay, you have been asking the question?
I've been asking the question. What is the plan? What is the plan? Excuse me, what is the plan? And if we do have a plan, when can we see it being executed?
Exactly. Because if I remember clearly, I remember the present government blamed the past government a lot where crime is concerned. They say the past government didn't have a plan, they couldn't deal with plan.
They didn't. Let's not get it twisted. They didn't. They didn't have a plan, and so we saw what we saw.
No. I mean, just hold on a minute, Laura. We have to be real. We got to be real. and they told us vote for them that time, and crime will be something at the past.
Absolutely.
That's what we vote for.
Yes, we voted for them
We
to
vote for
stamp
that.
out crime. Yes.
So now you, Laura, kind of shadow away from it. But that's the
Okay,
fact.
no, hold on. Let's not get twisted, and I will cut you off right now.
Well, you could do that. You could do.
I will cut you off right now.
Okay,
The previous
I'll cut
government.
myself.
When I say, okay, so this is a person who obviously cannot take the heat, and so he should stay out of the kitchen. The previous government did not have a plan. The previous Minister of Internal Affairs did not have a plan. He had no clue. Just the mere fact, the words that he used to describe victims, it showed that he had no plan. Does that mean that this government has a plan? I'm not saying that they do. I can't see the evidence that they do. And that's the thing. We want to keep pointing fingers at one and not at the other. And if we're going to start pointing fingers, we may as well lay blame everywhere that it is due. Okay? The last administration didn't have a plan. This one obviously does not have a plan, and it is evident. We have another call online. Thank you for holding. You're on the air.
Yes, good evening, Laura.
Hi, good evening.
I suspect that the arrogance to the whole issue that is at hand is that we are constantly blaming both parties for the mistakes that we solutions have been facing throughout the years.
Thank you.
And the other thing is that I beg the fact that, you understand it, but yet still that we make excuses for when governance and government becomes the issue at hand, that we cannot be blaming or even giving the blames to whoever is to be blamed, because we are back and forth. Hence the issues that we have, the crime situation at hand, when certain party hacks and everything are making blaming or whatsoever, saying that when it was at this particular time, it was at this time, and now it at this time, and what are the issues? The issues at hand, we need to strive to a point where we need to curve the issues and put solutions at a better and make fair hell and the heaven that we think for investors to come, because we are right now at this present time killing the whole nation, because investors ain't going to want to invest the money. It's because this particular government is at this present is not making the demand of the people heard. So anyway, Laura, good evening and take time.
Thank you. Now, the previous caller, not this one, the previous caller, when I said I was going to cut you off, I didn't mean cut you off like in hang up my phone on you. That's not my style. I think that's rude. And the fact that you cut yourself off, well, that's on you. That's not my circus. That's your monkey in your circus, and that's okay with me. However, as I was saying, you can't say that, okay, this government promised to curb crime. They promised, they told us that the previous government did not have the answers. They didn't have a plan, and they had a plan. Yes, okay, so be it. So they said that the previous government did not have a plan, and they had a plan. The reason why St. Lucians voted the previous administration out is because they did not have a plan. And in desperation, voted another government in the hopes that they had a plan. It was a gamble. We lost. 50 murders in 11 months is not evidence of having a plan. We accept that. But it's not fair to say that just because this one did not have a plan, obviously that the previous one had a plan. They didn't. We had a justice minister who was crap. And I will say that anytime, anywhere, he was crap. We have a government now which obviously does not have a handle on the crime situation. 50 murders in 1 year, I don't care who you are. You could be my best friend and I'll tell you to your face. 50 murders in 1 year it's not evidence of having a handle on crime. It isn't. So let's not get, and in the top of the show, I said, let's not be pointing fingers, yellow and red, because the only party that is affected and is hurt and continues to get the short end of the stick and get it in the neck is us, the people. We are the ones affected, not the administration. 17 men in each time. No, they're not the ones. Because you know what? Oftentimes, they are the ones with the wherewithals to take their children and to ship them away. They are the ones, oftentimes, with the wherewithal to give birth to the children outside of our borders. They are the ones, oftentimes, who have the contacts the names, the people, the network to call when they're ill or their family members are ill. We are the ones who are left behind to suffer. I don't care who you are. So let's not get it twisted. Let's not be calling others hacks when we ourselves are the biggest hacks. We have a call online. Hello, good evening. You're on the air?
Yes, Laura.
Yes.
The person, hello, are you hearing me?
I'm loud and clear.
Right. I'm with you now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the present government has a plan because, soon they're about to have a multifaceted workshop, days workshop, including or with invitation to the opposition and various other bodies. And I think that is the plan that is materializing now.
That is not
Isn't
a
that
plan.
right?
That is not a plan. That is the framework to get a plan. That is not a plan. Now, I am sorry. I have very, very little low tolerance for this right now because, and I'll tell you why. I'm sorry we lost the caller. I wanted to really engage him. In 11 months, this is long way past due. And I give both sides of the fence pluck for that. Because if the current government cannot do it, did not do it, would not do it, it was incumbent upon the opposition, because they still form a part of parliament, to do it, to take the lead. How better can you engender yourself to the masses, to the electorate, if you take the lead where government, the sitting administration, fails? And that's the problem we have. That's the problem we have in this country. We so me. If we're not at the helm of governance in this country, then no, we play cash mobile. You know why we play cash mobile? Because we still don't have the answers. The opposition doesn't have the answers, because if they did have the answers, they would have had a plan to take back power in this country. We have another call online. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Laura,
Yes,
I don't know if I can butt in just a little something I want to contribute
Go ahead, sir.
concerning the deputy speaker. Can you
Sir?
entertain that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
The deputy speaker.
The deputy speaker.
Of the
Let's
House.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I find that really interesting because you had the deputy speaker. Does it have to be somebody who won the seat?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yes.
But I am asking the question. The present Speaker of the House, she was not elected, right?
The speaker does not have to be elected. The
but the deputy has
yes,
to.
Yes.
Now, this is kind of mystery, mind-boggling, because it's almost like a controversy.
Talk to me.
And the person who has to be the deputy speaker can be the opposition or the government.
An elected member.
I know, elected. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Now, look at what it caused the young lady. She had to go to the hospital. Now, would you close down the house because there's no deputy?
Well, it's what's happening right now. There's no deputy speaker, so the house cannot be convened.
So let me ask your opinion. What do you think
About?
the situation?
I think it's untenable.
Okay.
I think we need to have a deputy speaker, one way or another.
Yeah, because I am saying the Speaker of the House is a woman.
Yes.
And woman might need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let us not go there.
No, okay.
Because I can tell you, I have been out with friends, men and women, and the number of times men go to the bathroom, it is mind-boggling. It is mind-boggling. Again,
okay.
I mean, the two you cannot really compare, though. Let's, in all honesty, without being all jokes aside, you can't really, because the drinks that men imbibe when they're out, it tends to lead to frequent bathroom breaks. But one way, you're quite correct. The anatomy and the makeup of a female at times will necessitate that she needs to do more bathroom breaks than her male counterpart.
You know what
That's
I like
just
about
biology.
you? You know what I like about you,
Talk to me.
Laura? You call a speed a speed.
It is what it is.
Okay.
It is what it is.
I feel sorry for her though, because you know
Absolutely. Absolutely.
she's a wife. Okay. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, dear. Thank you for calling and sharing your opinions. Yeah, about the deputy speaker. Absolutely, we need a deputy speaker. But again, like the caller mentioned, it could come from either side. There's no hard and fast rule. What we have is convention. Conventions can be broken, and we can go outside of convention. We have another call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Laura, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
I may be teasing your brain a bit.
Go ahead. I like
very
teasing.
interesting preamble. Laura, there's something that I've been questioning for a while now.
Share with me.
And maybe you can answer me.
I'll try.
Under which administration was the curfew passed?
The curfew.
For children, the after school curfew?
I want to say under a UWP administration. I'm not sure. I will not venture. I know that there was a curfew. As you mentioning it, there was a curfew, but when and by whom, I'm not clear. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I can't answer this with any
I'll give you
certainty.
another question, another research.
I'm already failing. Okay, let's go.
Okay. Under which administration was the bodily institution built?
Oh, that's easy. That was under Kenny's administration. That was an SLP
SLP administration.
SLP initiative. Yeah.
What prompted that project?
I think it was overcrowding of the Her Majesty's prisons.
Okay. The last question on this is: how much did that new prison cost?
Oh, I can't remember. I can't recall the figure off the top of my head. It was costly.
Okay.
And it was not supposed to be a prison. It was supposed to be a correctional facility. So there should be programs for rehabilitation at Bordelais.
This is like to tell me that it's a correctional facility.
That's what it is.
It's like putting icing on poison.
Put icing on poison. But that's what it was called. I remember very clearly, and I may be wrong, but I do recall, I think it was Velon John at the time who said, he made a big fuss about it being a correctional facility, and it's something about leave my boys alone or whatever, something to that effect. I may be paraphrasing right now. Yeah. But it's supposed to be a correctional facility, and I think it was supposed to have been patterned after a Canadian system, if my memory serves me correctly.
You see, it's nice to hear you saying that it's supposed to be a correctional facility.
Underscore supposed, huh?
Yeah. And it reminds me of when they said that persons are being given an opportunity to do the CXs there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Have we ever looked on the outside of Bordelais?
On the outside?
Yeah, outside of Bordelais. Yeah, in the communities.
You mean once the prisoners have left?
No.
Oh, you mean the communities
before they become prisoners?
Okay, I get you.
Yeah. Okay. Because you see, from the time they become prisoners, even if you give them those certificates, there's already a stigma attached to them.
A mindset.
Ex-convict. Yes. Okay? So already, to me, that's why I'm asking you, how much did it Bordelais cost? One might probably say, oh, the government cannot do everything. We're talking about crime right now. Okay? What we have actually done, we increased capacity.
Yes. Reminds you of that song that Lucky Dube sang, right?
Yeah.
All they build is prisons.
You see?
Right?
So, I mean, if this is what they say, sao plate, sao.
Plate is sao we call it.
Yeah.
Yep. So
this is basically what it is. Our focus was on creating accommodation for prisoners. When we were supposed to have focus on cutting back on the amount of persons that go to prison, we increase
the capacity,
the accommodation.
Yes.
You know? And then we come back and say it's a correctional facility. You know? The opportunities that we give them.
A lot of our children.
Why don't we give it to them before they become prisoners?
That's it. I was just about to say, and a lot of our children are not given that opportunity to ensure that they don't go, they're not inmates at the bodily facility. You see, a lot of our children aren't able to write CXCs because they can't afford to write it. You know, but then, but once they have gotten themselves, they've run afoul of the law, they automatically can afford it, because once they're in the prison,
afford it.
Yeah, because once they're in the prison, when they've been become inmates,
so
they're exposed to the opportunity
to be qualified to be a good citizen. And then we talk about crime. To use Rick Wayne's popular word, it's hypocrisy.
It is hypocrisy. But you see, there are so many things on the outskirts of what we see, on the periphery. There's so much. It is in the interest of government to keep I always say, to keep the masses ignorant, to keep them down, because they can't rise up against it. There will not be any mutiny. There will never be a strong civil sense of taking back what is ours to begin with. You understand? So it is in their best interest, the interest of a few men and women, to keep the masses down. And even those of us who have been able to elevate ourselves and to educate ourselves, we're still behaving like house Negroes, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? We're still behaving like, you know, for us to get ahead, we have to keep the next person down, and not sharing in each other's successes and helping each other to become the full potential. You know, how many leaders do you think we have out there in society who could be leading our country, but instead they're leading gangs? We have a lot of leaders, you know. A lot of people say we don't have leaders. We have a lot of leaders. It's just that the leaders that we have decided to go on the other side of the law and on the right side of the law. Think about it.
Now, I think I have one more question. One more question.
One more question.
Before I go. Yeah, you mentioned about the parents not being there with the children. Okay. What is our main industry?
Tourism.
Isn't it tourism?
Yes.
Right. Isn't tourism a 24-hour business?
Sure it is.
Any idea what percentage of persons are employed in that industry? What percentage of our labor force are employed in that industry?
Well, I think it is the second largest employer in St. Lucia.
Right.
Other than outside of the government. So go figure. A lot of people.
So we're looking at that. What we are looking at there is that quite a high percentage of our labor force is on a shift system.
Absolutely.
Which makes the absence from home inevitable.
Inevitable.
Because they have to feed the family.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yes.
So here comes another example of the hypocrisy.
But listen to this now. Listen to this. A home, I will always argue for, a home should have two parents. Because it took a man and a woman to lay together for at least 5 minutes to make a baby. I'm just saying. At least 5 minutes to make a baby. How many of us, these men and women, before they engage in the 5 minutes of pleasure, think about the 18 years after that 5 minutes? Let's just think about it. I'm just going to leave it at that. If you have no more questions for me, I'm going to thank you for sharing your opinions and
thank you
and talking with me.
All right.
Yeah. But it is what it is. I mean, we've got two parents. I highly doubt, although it is possible, there is a high probability of it happening. But if we have two parents, there should always be one parent available to take care of the kids. Two parents. We have our final call right now. Hello, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
Hello.
Hi.
I just want to contribute a little to. It's interesting, President, what you were talking about.
Uh-huh.
And concerning the parenting, one thing when you said to me that all the problems that are going on with children is because of women. And I never could understand why she said a statement like that.
Explain.
And then I understood what she meant.
Talk to me.
Because, you see, some of our women have no pride and dignity. They, per se, go and sleep with any
I want you to, hold on, huh? I want you to be very careful from here on. Be very careful what you're going to say. Okay.
I am being very careful. Sometimes some women don't choose who they
Thank
be the
you
father
for
of their
saying
children.
some.
Okay? They choose anybody to be a father for their children. In fact, anybody can be a sperm donor, but not everybody can be a real dad. Because if you watch the majority right now, the reason that you have so many single-parent family is because of wrong decisions that some of the women make.
So the men are absolved from being fathers. I don't care what background you come from. The fact of the matter is, you enjoyed 5 minutes of pleasure. You had to have thought about the ensuing 18 years.
Yes.
So it's not just the women. And what makes a woman not have class, or what makes a woman not have shame because she slept with a man and who ended up being a deadbeat? You think she went in there knowing that he was going to be a deadbeat?
What I'm saying, the decision that we make determines our future, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Today determines our tomorrow. So, and if you watch the way that I'm not that old, I'm young. And when I look back and the way that women carry themselves back then in the late 80s, right? It's totally different from now. It's like women I
could tell you women in the 70s said the same thing about women in the 80s, and women in the 60s said the same thing about the women in the 70s, and so on and so forth. So every generation has its own curse. Every generation thinks it was better than the ensuing generation. So, my question to you would be, what does it say about the men who would sleep with women who have such bad judgment like you're describing?
Exactly. You see, sometimes you don't just go and jump to any man and just sleep with them.
But what about the men? Why are they just jumping to any woman and then want to complain and say, oh, the law is always skewed towards the woman? It goes both ways.
The law is for the women.
Huh?
I agree with you, but sometimes we know, I'm a man, okay? But sometimes women know the tactics and the strategies of men. Like they don't cherish.
They do?
I just believe that they must be more careful who they just... Because some of these guys don't care, you know.
They do. They don't care. But I'll tell you, women don't always know the wickedness of men's heart. Because, just last week I was listening to a friend of mine chat with this guy. And this guy she could tell that this guy is the other guy's whatever. She has an intuition or whatever. But here is his friend making a case for him, pleading with her not to leave. Give him a second chance. He's a good guy. He just needs this. He just needs that. And unfortunately, some women, they fall for that. The only thing you can accuse her of is having poor judgment. But which woman doesn't want to be loved and to hear sweet little nothings in her ear? You know? And receive flowers once a week, and go out and hold hands and cross the road and have a man open the door for her and be sweet with her. Everybody wants that. Everybody. I don't care who you are, man and woman. And you'd be surprised the number of men who have insecurities like that. You know what I'm saying? But it takes two hands to clap. You cannot exonerate one at the expense of the other. It really is wrong.
Sometimes I see a decent woman walking nice decently, and then by her a man pants on his backside. We down.
That does not even begin. No, but that's. I mean,
Seriously.
no. You need to travel. Listen, I know lawyers who walk like that with the, and I'm talking about they make lots of money, and that's.
The lawyers need
I'm
more
not.
help
I'm not
the
saying.
lawyers, the lawyers, they need more help than the men out
I'm
there.
just saying that just because a guy walks with his pants under his butt does
dress
not mean that
decently,
the
dress
character
decently.
is bad. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that. And every woman ever now and then likes to have a little bad boy in their life. That's just a fact of life. We're humans. We always want what we cannot have or what we should not have. You know, that little hint of badness. Everybody wants that. Just as a man will always pursue a woman who seems unattainable, he will always pursue her because he's a hunter. He wants that. He doesn't have it. He wants it. It takes two hands to clap. We cannot exonerate one without the other. But this is where we ran out of time. So I want to thank you so much for being my last caller and really ending our discussion on a humorous note. Thank you so much. And we're all out of time. And I want to thank you, all of the men who called. And I'd like to think that my women folk just couldn't get the line. But I want to thank all of the men who called and shared their views. We may disagree with each other, but I hope you know that it is without rancor. I hope you know that it's just passion for our country, and you don't have to take it to heart. You don't have to, not that you don't have to take it to heart, but don't take it personal when I am being passionate and you can't handle the heat. If you can't handle the heat, stay out of the kitchen. That's my say. Before I leave, I want to encourage everybody. Earlier, I was talking about investors coming to our country and wanting to invest, and we have the owner of Sugar Beach, who apparently has been coming down to Festival Abowie every last Friday for past few months. And I want to big up Henry Cocoboy Walcott for his superlative effort in ensuring that Festival Abowie continues to thrive. So from what I understand, this man, owner of Festival Abowie, of Sugar Beach, is celebrating his birthday, and he wants to celebrate it in Laborie. So he is bringing 300 friends and family of his down to Laborie on the 10th, which is this Friday, I believe. It's going to be epic. I heard the entertainment is going to be fantastic. The offerings are going to be wonderful. 300 friends and families of Sugar Beach are coming down. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. Laborie is the place to be on Friday. So you want to come down and you want to be a part of that. Also, I want to remind persons from the southern environs that Talent 758 is coming to a location near you on Saturday, the 11th of November. Talent 758 is going to be in Vieux Fort from 9 a.m. They're taking in auditions. Any talent that you have, could be singing, dancing, it could be magic shows, it could be comic, it could be anything. Come down to Vieux Fort from 9 o'clock at the town council, I think it is, from 9 o'clock. And yeah, so it's the grand prize is going to be a grand prize, not at the audition, but at the finals if you make it. I think they're going to be taking between 10 and 15 people to make it to the quarterfinals. The grand prize is $3,000 first place, $1,000 second place, and $500 third place. And it's going to be at the Vieux Fort Town Hall on Saturday. This is this Saturday. Come one, come all, bring your friends. Anybody you know with a talent, come on down. It's going to be epic. So we're starting in Laborie with Festival Abowie on Friday. And then the youth, especially the young people with so much energy, come on down to Vieux Fort at the Vieux Fort Town Hall from 9 o'clock. Register. It's only $20, I think, for registration. Come on down and let St. Lucia know what talent you have got. This is where we end tonight. See you next week. Au revoir.